what's become quite a story here is that as the home team, or the supposed home team, who are now the away team, FC Platinum then said, we will still keep our right to provide the match balls. And once the match balls were, of course, provided by what is now the away team, that's supposed to be the home team, but, you know, they are keeping their right to provide that match ball. The supporters, of course, in this stadium were the Harare City supporters who lost the match. And every time the ball would go out of play, and they would, in the end, the supporters burst all the balls. I believe up to 5 balls were used.
No kidding.
Every time the ball would get there, they just puncture the ball and throw it back, and the ball would land up, as we say in South Africa.
Yes.
The FC Platinum supporters were doing so. Imagine that. Have you ever in your life heard of such a story where they are puncturing the balls?
But Sizwe, we talk about the Chibuku competition. Everybody was drunk, so that's why they were keeping popping the balls every time the ball was going into the stand. But besides that, you know, the organizers administrators should have taken that into account, you know, actually to try to come with the ball, so teams will not ask a question that this one or that one is biased, and they have actually to be very professional. Look at the balls.
There's 5 balls. Thankfully, they bring more than 5 on the match day. Now, if you're just joining us again, what we're used to over the years is at times seeing the ball go out into the stands and maybe fans refusing to return the ball. In this occasion, this is a story because the fans would keep the ball, puncture it, and then throw it back onto the field. There it is. They're putting the work onto it, then they're throwing it back onto the field, saying, go ahead, have it, try and play on that one. And every time they couldn't. And in the end, there you have it. There was 4 last time, 5 balls out there. The fans doing their bit to show their displeasure at the confusing story I had to tell in just setting the scene here, TK.
Yeah, I think you know, football, I said earlier, football is a very emotional game. But I think there is also that sportsman spirit involved in the whole thing. I mean, if their team decided to forfeit home ground advantage, they probably underestimated their opponents. So Harare City,
I believe they had to, because of the magnitude of the game and TV coverage as such. That's the story I've been told.
Yeah, but then they should go and do the business in the field. And the supporters have got to accept it. You know, look at Zamalek players. I saw hundreds of their supporters openly crying, you know. It was the only way to accept that they lost to Sundowns. Yeah. So why can't Platinum supporters accept that they lost to a so-called small team, Harare City, and they had to punch at the balls?
So in this case, it's the winning supporters, of course, that did so. The FC Platinum supporters, I think,
my. Now it gets even more,
more crazier. More complicated.
It gets
now,
more complicated.
When you hear the story, of course, they are now the travelling supporters who should have had this as a home game, showing their frustration, and their team is running through their opponents. Regardless, they are displeased at the whole situation. But should action be taken against them is the question I have to ask here. Yes, right now we're joking about soccer balls being punctured, but by letting it slide, are you not setting a precedent that where fans can maybe damage property you could even argue, in showing their displeasure?
Actually being taken against the supporters.
It's on a small scale here, but...
Against supporters, I don't think so. But actually, the administrator of football in Zimbabwe should call the chairman or the president or the management of the team actually to try to talk to them about the behavior of the supporters and giving them a very strict or written warning that if it happens next time, and then proper actions will be taken or point can be deducted or something like that.
Many of you might be asking why the supporters did this. Keep in mind, there are superstitions in football that are very much alive and kicking. We see it just about in all the parts of the continent. And well, we have been told the FC Platinum supporters feared that the balls had been tampered with in the way of juju and such, TK.
I hear you, and I also read with interest, you know, the president of Zamalek saying that Sundowns used juju to beat them. In the first leg, when their defender, during the group stages, their centre-back scored an own goal. And
How serious is juju?
And in the first leg final,
it is serious, Sizwe.
In the first leg final, another defender scored an own goal.
Yeah, same defender, same attacker, same side,
and he
same goal, own goal.
He said it can't be coincidence. It's got to be juju. you know.
How
And now,
serious is juju in African football? How seriously do we take it as institutions and
in Africa, we take it, it's you, I'm telling you. But then ask yourself the question, if Muti or Juju or Grigri, as some call it, was so potent in Africa, shouldn't an African team by now have won the World Cup?
So what about the what? You think that Europeans, they don't have juju?
Well, they do have.
They do have, yes, they do have.
But then it means that their juju is much stronger than African
Yes,
juju.
we can say that.
have we heard stories of juju in Europe?
Oh,
in, in Brazil.
Oh, yes.
No, Europe.
No, not
South
in
America,
Europe.
I believe.
Yes, in South America,
yes, they do have, you know, those kind of...
in Turkey, you know, they actually slaughter a goat, and I believe the players have to... Not a goat, a sheep, I believe. They slaughter a sheep, and the
Turkey
player...
won a World Cup yet? No.
Turkey has been to the World Cup.
Not
they
won
haven't
one.
won it yet, of course, but...
So
and
that's
I believe
juju work.
That's it. Well,
you know,
there you are.
have been I remember in 90s...
I'm saying if there's no proof in the pudding, Jeff, why go through the practice?
But people are adamant, especially from Senegal, where they used to say that Jean-Pierre Papin used to go to Dakar, get some juju, and go to France and score more goals. So and they will tell it with a passion, you know.
So that's why the guys in Zimbabwe felt that the balls that were supplied by the team were tampered with. They had strong juju, so they had to deflate them in order to make sure that the juju
in Europe they do
affect
have talismans, so you know there's some kind of juju for them.
I've read quite a bit players' biographies and such, and I've spoken to a lot of former African players. And in the stories you hear, yes, it's a practice that would seem, according to some, is a practice here on the continent. Whilst in everything I've read and tried to research and speaking to former European players, there's been no talk of it, or even African players that have played in Europe. There's been no talk of it. Is all I'm saying. So still awaiting that evidence from a European point of view.
African players
Out in Europe. Practiced by European clubs and institutions.